Music is for the people and we serve the music, but
Right.
it's also soulful for us and meaningful for us. And all those times in those rehearsals with, our colleagues and our band mates, it's just, so you have to have that release somehow of that preparation.
Hey everyone, welcome to winconductor.org. Looking forward to talking to my next guest. I've known him for a while now and have been really impressed with his band program. And I'm looking forward to talking to him and seeing how his program has been affected by the school closure, some of the successes that he's had. And I know I want to talk to him about when all of this stuff started going down because he's got a really great, unique story, very impactful, positive moment for the kids. And without any further ado, I look forward to introducing Todd Dixon from Wylie High School in Texas. That
Thank you,
Wylie
Aaron.
Band. Yeah.
That Wylie Band. It's one of those, you embrace it or get run out of town. I learned when I got here the first time. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So Todd, tell us for, you know, a lot of people in Texas know you. They know that Wylie Band. But for our viewers outside of Texas, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your program and your story getting you to this point.
Yeah, I'm in my 24th year of teaching. Started off in the Keller schools, opened the second high school out there as an assistant, which is north of Fort Worth, and then I was there for 7 years, moved to Mansfield, which is south of Arlington, and opened their second high school as a director of bands there. And then was there for 5 years and moved up here to Wylie, which is north of Dallas, right next to Plano, in 2007, and they were splitting schools. So I've always kind of been at a place that was growing and adding schools,
Yeah.
and I ended up staying at the current high school, not going to the new school that was here. But we split the band, and it was kind of hard. It took a couple years for the dust to settle, just like any other community. But we've built it back up. There's 350 in the band program next year. We had 320 this year.
Yeah.
Student
So,
body in the school is 2,700. So
which is amazing. And I just want to kind of pause you there because I may pull you back on at a later time to talk about that experience of when a county decides to, or a district decides to split high schools and kind of building up and stuff like that, because I love the fact that your percentage of students in this band program is extraordinary. I mean, to have over 300 kids in the band program is great for any program. But when you consider the size of the school, you know, most schools average around the 7 to 8% is what I've heard statistically. Really strong bands are around the 10 to 12%,
yeah.
and you guys are just knocking it out of the park there.
Yeah, and it sometimes comes with its challenges. We still think that kids should be involved in any program they want to be in. We don't just say you're going to be in band and quit something else. We counted up, we got kids in 37 different programs,
Wow.
and we have signs and posters about everything. So there's a poster in all of the counselor's office from the junior high through the high school that shows our kids in their different outfits with
Nice.
this on this big band sign. You might have seen it when you were at our school,
Yeah.
and that just to remind the counselors that yes, they can do band and other things, and those fine arts and PE requirements for graduation in Texas. They're going to need exactly what we have to offer, and then we just work with them beyond that if there's any conflicts.
Right. That's awesome. And that's important for any strong band program, regardless of the size of school, regardless of where you are. And, you know, going off of that, a great friend of mine in Virginia had really strong band program. He was putting, 150 to 200 kids into the band program, which I know in regards to some of those Texas bands, it's not a big band, but, you know, when you consider that there was less than 500 kids enrolled in the school, I mean, you've got to, in order to grow a thriving band program, I think you nailed it on the head. You've got to be flexible and able to work with all the community within the band program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I brought you on because your story of when the outbreak started to happen and things were kind of starting to shut down all across the nation. You have a really unique story. Tell us where you guys were, what was going on when all this stuff started happening.
Yeah, absolutely. We were on our way up to the Music for All National Concert Band Festival, the national festival now. And, for your viewers and colleagues out there, if you haven't been able to do that or submit for that, is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful festival that I love. This is the school's fourth time to go up, my third time with them. Um, so we were going up with two groups. We had our wind symphony that was a featured group, and our wind ensemble that had submitted for an invited group. So there's two different levels that they
Yeah.
can be invited to go. So we had two bands going. So 3 charter buses, all the kids, got everybody paid up, got boosters. I mean, you're fundraising. The district gave us some money. Love our school district. They're totally into the arts.
That's awesome.
So we leave, and this kind of started coming down. We'd heard about this. So this is during our spring break. We were leaving. It was Wednesday of our spring break, and so we get all the way up there. Had taken, we were at our dinner break right outside of Indianapolis. When we sit down for dinner, and the NCAA had canceled the tournament, the rest of the tournaments.
Right.
And we were going into Indianapolis, which was hosting some of that stuff. So
Right.
we're going to be at the JW Marriott right there downtown, where and the NCAA headquarters is there. So we're like, oh my gosh, that's pretty significant. So we get in there and get into the hotel, and obviously we know things are going to start changing. So they normally have a big opening ceremony the Thursday of the event around 1 o'clock. So things changed pretty drastically in a very, very short period of time.
Right.
And they had, the Music for All had to react to what was going on with state officials, what was going on around the country, around the world, really.
Yeah.
And so there was some decisions made to shorten the festival, which we are like, yeah, I guess we got to do that. And so we didn't have the opening session. All the bands stayed within their band groups. There were still rehearsal areas there to do a rehearsal. So we had a rehearsal Thursday morning, and then we went about our schedule without the opening session. Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser was great. I reached out and asked, since we're not doing the full session, do you think Tim could stop by and just say a few encouraging words? And he did.
That's
and
awesome.
They were great about that. And so we went to the venue, Butler University, Clues Hall, for the concert that night. And so quite a few groups did perform. We were the first group on. So we had one of our groups have their performance, and there were several right after us.
Right.
After that was done and we got back, we'd heard that they canceled the rest of the event.
Wow.
This is my daughter. She's going to work. Bye, sweetheart. So they had canceled. Okay. They had canceled the event. And everybody was just kind of floored.
Yeah.
So it went from, hey, we're going to go down to a couple of days to and then it was just, gone.
So with that performance event, how many of you said that your top band got to perform. How many other bands in that category got to perform? Were there any that missed out on that opportunity?
Yeah, and there were some that just turned around.
Okay.
Once things were happening. Some of the local, it was like a 15-hour bus ride for us, but
Right.
those that were a little more local decided not to go. And so I think of the groups that were supposed to perform that night, I think there was about five
Okay.
and they got to perform. So, and then that evening, people still had their rehearsal times, but that was actually at the time that they were making those decisions. So, like our second band was in rehearsal when we found
Right.
out, and so we kind of knew something what might happen. So we had our top group in and opened the doors a little of that rehearsal area, and so they just did their concert. And so we sat and we were their audience, and I did a Facebook Live just
Yeah.
to have a moment of it. And other groups that were walking by stopped and sat down in the hall, and it was this impromptu concert because the kids just felt like they needed to play. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
one of those things that just happens organically. You can't not prepare and just go, okay, we're done, and go home.
Right.
There were a couple groups after our rehearsal that did the same thing, and knowing that there was a certain limit to crowd size back then. It was, I think, under 250 or 500, something like that.
Right.
We did make sure we were in compliance, but there was a group that just went into a hall and played, and they didn't ask anybody to come. We were glad to be there and cheer them on. So there were some things that night that kind of came out of it, and it was not, I want to say, it was not organized by Music for All.
Right.
They didn't sanction it, and we might have gotten in trouble a little for doing it, but
No, but
it was great.
yeah, and the thing I love about it is exactly what you said. You felt that this is an honor. Any band that gets to either level of that event, it is a tremendous honor for that band to be invited to the Music for All event or the National Festival event. It is, and I love that you made it a priority to share your music, regardless of whether it was in the concert hall or whether it was in the ballroom where you were rehearsing. And it was infectious too, because you said that other bands just came in and started enjoying it, and then you guys reciprocated that so that those other bands could have that experience too, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, and there was a lot of tears in those performances. Those kids just work so hard,
Right.
and even if it's not for a big crowd on a big stage, it makes you really realize that yeah, music is for the people, and we serve the music, but
Right.
it's also soulful for us and meaningful for us. And all those times in those rehearsals with our colleagues and our band mates, it's just, so you have to have that release somehow of that preparation.
Yeah, most definitely. And, it just kind of highlights that as musicians, we play two roles. We are the role of those making the music, but at the same time, throughout that performance, we are our own audience as well. And, it's just as rewarding to be a performing quote unquote audience member as it is to, well, probably more rewarding to be a musician. But I love it. I love the resourcefulness. So, what was some of the reactions to some of the other band directors when this started happening?
um, there was two reactions. There was the, we got to get out of here,
Right.
and
The
then
natural.
the natural, and then there was the that was, I mean, just like the other, that was a great idea, we're going to do that tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Uh, so and just appreciation for having anybody in the room when their kids perform. So the reaction for us traveling with kids is, the first is, okay, I got to take care of the health and well-being of our
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
We're responsible for that, and we love those kids, and we don't want to see anything happen to them. But we were there.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to, us being in the same space that we'd been in for the last 24 hours was not going to change anything.
Right.
For in our perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened. We were talking earlier, and you said that this all happened. You guys were on spring break, and when you guys get back home to Texas, uh, tell us, it's been an extraordinary road for every band director in the U.S. The past month and a half has just been, one hit after another with thinking they were going to go back in April, pushing it back to May, and then having schools canceled completely. What has that looked like for the Wylie Band, and what are some of the things that you guys started implementing once you got back in? And more specifically, what has been the most successful during that time that you've had the most wins in your program?
We knew, I guess it was Thursday or Friday of spring break, that we were going to not have school for a little
Yeah,
while. It was a 2 week that we started off with 2 weeks, and we're not going to have school for 2 weeks, which was the kids, that was great for them,
right.
because, at one point they're like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to come back and go right back to school. Oh, they had a hoot the rest of the time. Um, but coming back and getting the staff together, and we had already gone to some platforms of Google and Google Classroom.
Okay,
We'd already done some things with technology of recording into charms and, submissions of things on Google Classroom. So we were kind of set up already, and we had the kids in those classrooms already. So that was something that was already done. Now, we hadn't done too much in it. We just kind of used it as a platform for some things. So we started off with, we were going to be rolling out some new individual fundamental warm-ups for every instrument. So that was ready to go. So for the first week, it was some submissions of those things. So not a full group warm-up, but these individual things we wanted each instrument to do as a warm-up every single day.
right,
So we started with a submission of that, along with, we did a rhythm sheet that they, how we have our own way of doing rhythm and how they count, and how we do pledge the beat and do the rhythm and all this other stuff.
right,
And so we got to really kind of dial in on that. So we just made it so that it was, Monday was always the same thing. Tuesday was always the same. So, Monday was rhythm and daily drill. Tuesday was sight reading. Wednesday
okay,
was sectional. Thursday was sight reading, and Friday was whatever the project was for the week.
right,
Okay. And so we did that for a couple weeks, and just having that slotted time on, it was the same from week to week on those days,
right.
helped out.
Yeah, and that there's a lot of structure to that. Now is that I would imagine from a planning and evaluation standpoint, that was a lot of effort on the team in with putting all that stuff together. Did you guys stick with that plan throughout, or how did it kind of evolve?
We did that for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you realize on the other end of it, that's a lot of grading. That's a
Right.
lot of evaluation. And as much as we wanted, the whole goal was to keep them playing their instruments and
Right.
not put it up, because for all intents and purposes, we were coming back, and we
Right.
had our UIL, which is our state festival, coming up after that, and we had to add in another movement of the Hindeman Symphony. So,
Right.
there were things that we were doing to help as we come back. Then they decide, okay, we're not coming back until May 4th. So then plans changed a little, because we could kind of see the writing on the wall.
Right.
So, and we saw that as we were doing things, other teachers were getting more comfortable in the platform. So they're ramping things up a little. So we took things down a little. And so we had, and the best thing, like during March, we had them following that March Mania
Oh yeah,
and so they would vote. That
with
was
the Marine
a
Band.
daily assignment, was voting for that. So it was great.
It's a great resource. I love what
It
they're
is
doing.
great. And
And the cool thing about that, if you're a director and you haven't found this site, definitely go check it out, because there's so many. It's the President's Own Marine Band, and there's so many cool things on there. They have the March Madness every March, coincides with the basketball tournament, but it's all about these different marches and early pieces. But one of the cool things is they've taken Sousa's entire repertoire. They've made some phenomenal recordings. I was talking to Christian Amundsen, who was involved with. He was the sound guy for them through
oh
a lot of those
gosh,
recordings, and it is just amazing. But the neat thing is they have free downloads of all those arrangements, and so you can get the scores and parts. So if you want to program the stuff with your band, and the neat thing is that they actually dig into the Sousa style. They actually
Yeah.
indicate on those what Sousa probably did. They analyze all these old recordings, and it's just really good. And they'll tell you, brass out on this frame here. You know, woodwinds an octave lower, second time through, take it up an octave, that type of stuff. Stuff that uh, wasn't in those old small Sousa charts and everything. It's one of those things that you
Right.
learned in school, or you talk to a veteran conductor and stuff like that. It's an amazing resource. All
Oh,
right, so
I love marches, and we've used that site probably since they started doing it
yeah,
to pull marches from for a ton of stuff.
yeah. And it's a great resource. I digress, but it was a good segue, and I just wanted to get that in there for anybody that wasn't familiar with that resource, because it is a tremendous resource for everybody. So March Madness was a part of the daily routine for you guys, and getting them involved in listening.
Yeah, we also did the district does a thing called Think College Thursday, where the most simple thing is you wear a college shirt, you can wear jeans because we have a
Yeah,
dress code, and we're talking about college all the time. And so Think College Thursday online for us became, I'd put a couple of collegiate uh, videos up there from YouTube, and they get to vote on what their favorite was. And I'm not going to divulge on this who they voted for and who won. I don't want to make anybody mad, but it was just great for them to be, introduced to some music they might not have heard before, and get them hearing what college groups are doing, and kind of what our top groups are doing in comparison, because
yeah,
we really have some fine players.
yeah. That's awesome. So, one of the things that a lot of directors have been concerned during this time, we can put together assignments and get kids playing their instruments, and have that expectation in an online setting, individual and stuff like that. But one of the biggest things that the kids are missing is the connection with the staff, and also the connection with others. Did you guys kind of tackle the social aspect of the band, the interaction between student to student, and help bring that together?
Yeah, we started off with this whole experience by getting together with each of our bands. So
Okay.
each of the directors, the primary director of that group, and we have two student teachers that are fantastic, that helped us out. We all kind of got together with each of the bands, and just to say hi and just to see them and see how they were doing and explain what the process was going to be, and then getting in touch with them every Wednesday in sectionals. And we'd used Google Meet, and I started using Zoom so I could do breakout rooms,
Right.
and have them play for each other, because we'd done some around the room because we can't play at the same time.
Right.
And so we've done some stuff like I said, we're starting to work on the second movement in the symphony. So we had went around and everybody played a segment that was the assignment for that week. That took a lot of time, and so Wednesday
Right.
was just blocked
Right.
all the way through the day. But we didn't have any kids miss, and I was really proud of that. Even through, we have five bands. Even
Right.
through that, the lower younger groups, they were on there. I mean,
That's awesome.
I want to say it might not have been 100% of the time, but great majority of the time, everybody was in there. And what we do, we text or call if somebody wasn't there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how we use that. And so breaking it into the Zoom rooms allowed them, because we had to coach them on how to give comments, which is always great. So
Yeah.
taking them through a rubric and say, okay, so you're going to give comments on this. This week, I want you to do it based on rhythm and intonation, and listening to that kind of stuff, really kind of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And so what we trained them to do was take a picture of their music so they could share their screen. So there was a lot of technology we were teaching them at the same time that helped them in their other classes later on, as this experience went on, because they had to do presentations. Well, they
Nice.
already knew how to share their screen, and these were intentional things. We
Yeah.
wanted them to learn how to do those things. So, they share their screen, do the music, give comments. And then the following weeks, we wanted really them to, since everything was kind of going to be, done with some of the things we were doing, wanted them to delve into the musical side more and give more information and dig into that heart and exposing themselves more as musicians instead of technicians.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in Texas, we get told we are great technicians, and so we use that time to do some more expressive talk and some more thoughtfulness about thinking outside and thinking more musical. So it was great.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I love the fact that you really engage the students on that online platform so that they're actively participating, not just going around and playing, but, giving that peer-to-peer feedback to the other students. That's great. That's phenomenal. So uh, I guess looking at the successes that you've had with the online platform and that stuff, there's a lot of stuff floating around right now where directors are learning these new skills that weren't in their bag of tricks before, and thinking about how they can utilize some of these things. Uh, what do you think will carry over into the normal classroom for Wylie, and what have you found to not be a good substitute and whatnot?
Um, we I think we will continue to use some of the things that we do on Google Classroom. A lot of the surveys we do with music and listening, I think, is valuable.
Yeah,
And we would, I would try and play music as they came in the door. They're not, you know, some are paying attention, some aren't, but
right,
you just do it enough, you think things are going to soak in. But some of that critical listening, where they can be somewhere and just play it and make a response. I think we'll keep doing those kind of things. We'll probably continue to do some of our playing tests online, but I would say that would be fewer than I thought prior
okay,
as we do this, and again, this is just for me.
okay,
And here's why I say this: I am married. I have two kids, and when I get home, I want to be with them. I don't want to grade all those assignments,
right,
and that's why we do sectionals and things like that. So I think it would be valuable for a really, I need you to do this thing, okay,
right,
and then come back to it and go, okay, you're almost there. Submit again. Maybe not a whole long piece, because that time 65 kids, I would never see my family, and so
right.
that's the simple answer to that, as the job versus family type
But
deal.
that's an important part of being a band director is finding that balance because it is easy to fully immerse yourself into the role of being a band director and forget about the peripherals of family and stuff like that. And we've all heard stories of you know it really affecting the family life, marriages, and stuff like that. And I love that you're making a conscious effort to have that balance.
Yeah, that's a real part of it that you have to think about with that technology, because you can take work anywhere these days.
Right.
But the other part is, we invest so much in tone and a lot in the physical aspect of the playing of the instrument. Just the embouchure, the corners, just where the hand position, just every little thing
Right.
that makes a more mature sound, and you can't really get that unless they have a nice microphone.
Right.
And even musicality, you can't really tell because the microphone's going to pick up.
Yeah.
It's built to pick up a range no matter how loud or soft it is. So there's some of those things that I wouldn't do as much as I thought I would do. Plus the immediate feedback to a kid and reaction. So if a
Hmm.
kid is playing something that is just, oh, that is so great, and I'm reacting to how well they're doing, it makes them that immediate feeling inside
Yeah.
versus I'm doing this, putting it on a machine.
Yeah.
So I think some of that we all grew up with, and we all remember those reactions from conductors or audience members or, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we love about being a musician is the ability to make people react in a way that, you'll never get from a computer.
Right. No, and that's a good point. That's a really great point.